Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey, everybody. Oh, wait. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody. This is Michael Menino, and welcome to Driven Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals and financially successful people, and they share their experience and tips with you how they got to where they're at today. Zooming from the beautiful island of Naples, we have Brett Furlong. He's a professional in pet transport, which I've never heard before. If you could do me a favor and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi Michael. Nice to be here. And so, my name's Brett. I live in South Florida, and the father of 3 girls. And my wife and I have been married about 18 years. And I get the privilege of leading a company called Starwood Pet Travel, where we transport pets all over the world. We're a remote company. And so we have staff in over 18 states and a couple countries, all working to reunite pet parents and their family members. So
could you do me a favor and talk about your wall in the back? I thought those were watches, and at closer review, I noticed those are like medals from running around the world.
Yeah, I find that I am a better employee, husband, father, business owner when I am doing things and running and working out. And so this was something I picked up about 12 years ago. And actually, because we're in South Florida, all those that you see are Disney medals. So races my family and I have done either at Walt Disney World, Disneyland in California, and we've done a couple at Disney Paris as well. So
nice. Did you? The one I told you about was a 3K, which is literally 2 miles, and it was at the space race.
Oh yeah,
Kennedy Space Center. You ever do that one?
Haven't done that one. Been to Kennedy a lot, but haven't done the race there.
Yeah, because it's only 2-3 miles. It's like that's a walk in the park for you. That's a heavy day of not training. So I love the space here, and I've interviewed a few people, and that's a very unique space. Is there any competition in that? Or you guys said you're the leaders of it. Is there anybody else that really tries to do what you do?
Yeah, across the world, I think in our association, there's probably over 300 companies that work across the world. And historically, companies are found in one airport. Usually you live in Boston and you figure out how to, transport pets, and you bring them to the airport and get them on their way. We were wanted to take more of a national approach, and so have drivers in every major airport, and our staff kind of spread throughout. But there's over 2 million pets fly a year, and so there's a lot.
2 million. 2 million. And it's not just dogs, there's cats.
Yeah, dogs and cats would be the major, but then if you're traveling internationally, there's a lot of airlines that move a lot. I was just on Qatar a couple weeks ago, and they are famous for doing a lot of wildlife rescues. And so on their planes, you could have a rhino, you could have all kind of stuff.
Rhino. You can fit traveling. A rhino on a passenger plane?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have fit we were doing for a Hollywood movie and needed to move a Kodiak grizzly bear from LA to South Africa for a shoot. And so, it was on a KLM flight with a lot of passengers, and the grizzly bear was in the back.
So I got it. This is crazy. So the grizzly bears are anywhere like 1,500 pounds up to 1,500 pounds, right?
Yeah,
so,
they're and Kodiaks are the largest. And so, this was a very large bear.
Did you have to, is there sedation? Is there?
No, you actually can't sedate any animal in transport. So it's not allowed, because aircrafts are, pressurized at 6,000 to 8,000 feet. And so when you're at the elevation, sedatives could have a different effect. And so you never want to sedate a pet, because you never know what that could do to them at 6,000 or 8,000 feet. And so But yeah, it had had its handler with them, and the aircraft we chose gave them the ability to go back and check on them mid-flight and everything. And so yeah.
It went off without a hitch.
Yeah, went to South Africa to film a scene, and I think it ended up being about 40 seconds in the movie, and that was about it. And flew back to LA. So
I see movies do that, and they spend tons of money doing. I'm sure they spent tons of money getting a Kodak to. But now, where did you take them to?
went. They were filming in Cape Town, South Africa.
Is there grizzly bears in Cape Town, South Africa?
No, that was some of the fun. Is we were the first to ever import a bear, and so the South African officials were asking for different immunization records and things that aren't pertaining to bears, and so we had to get U.S. Fish and Wildlife involved to help the counterparts on their side understand what we would expect in the United States for an import of a bear. And so, yeah, it definitely created a lot of extra meetings to get the bear over there.
Wow, that's crazy. That is crazy. If someone listening to the podcast wanted to get better at what you do, you do some crazy cool stuff. What would you suggest to them? What tips would you give them?
Yeah, I think in anything, we are a customer experience company.
Okay.
And you look at kind of the hierarchy of stresses in somebody's life. Moving is a very stressful time. Changing your job is a stressful time. Most of our customers are relocating international for a different job. And so we kind of get a combination of two of the most stressful things in people's lives. And
Job
then
changing,
on top of that, you're moving their pet, and they've heard horror stories of pet travel or what have you. And so then they're very stressed. And so our team is really in the customer experience side. It's really helping people understand. Historically, our industry has always been no news is good news. Transportation of pets is kind of behind the curtain. You don't know what's going on. And I've said, no, that's not going to be how it is. I wouldn't want that for my two dogs. And so we've kind of pulled back the curtain. We've worked with airlines. We've been on the tarmac. We have filmed pets coming in and out of the airplane, how they're transported, all this to give our customers kind of an understanding of each step their pet's going to take to kind of lower that stress. But yeah.
That's important, because you give them a good idea of what expectations are for the dogs or whatever animal, grizzly bear, whatever animal is being transported. We talked a little bit off camera, and I want you to mention something, because there's a lot of people out there that think that the pets are unsafe. Like, my daughter's under the full impression that she has a short-nosed dog, and you never take a short-nosed dog through the air and through the what do you call the passenger? Not the passenger, the
cargo side.
Yeah, the cargo side. And you told me something that I'd like everybody to hear so they understand.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear about cargo. And so one of the things that I've done is I will never send a customer on an airline or to a location that I personally haven't visited and been a part of discussions with those airlines. And so once a year I travel, I do an around the world trip where I stop at all of our top destinations, meet with the airline officials, check out their cargo facilities, make sure vehicles have secondary ACs, all these things. That's why I was just in Doha in Qatar, because they just built a huge multi-million-dollar pet transit facility. And the desert's very hot. And so I needed to verify how pets are arriving in very hot temperatures, how they're being handled, and then how they're getting loaded on the next flight before I would be sending our pets on those trips. And so airlines that allow pets on board take it very seriously. They have pet products, they have pet procedures, they have pet transit facilities. If you're flying on Lufthansa, Frankfurt has a whole facility just for pets in transit. Amsterdam, KLM has one. And it is a very safe. Now, what we always say is you want to figure out the airlines that have the best reputation on that. And that's where a pet shipping company comes into play, because we know we're shipping multiple pets every single day on many airlines. And so we know the airlines, we know the leadership. And then when you get into extra complications, like you said, your daughter has a flat nose or a snub nosed dog, those are an extra complication. We kind of have three different buckets, we say, of complications. Either it's going to be a snub nose, it's a geriatric pet, and that's based off of breed, not based off of age, because a Great Dane could be geriatric at a much younger than a Cavapoo would be geriatric. Right. And so we take it by that, or pre-existing conditions. And so because of each of those, then that changes our airline a lot of times. That changes our routing of how long the pet will be in the air. There's some airlines that won't take a snub-nosed pet, and there's some airlines that won't take a strong breed, like a Rottweiler or a Pitty. And so you need to know what those airlines are. But the airlines that do, back on the snub nose, the airlines that do take snubs, there isn't a higher risk that they have seen in snub nose compared to non-snub nose. And so, there's a lot of research on this. Our worldwide organization called IPATA has done a whole lot of research on snub nose, because French Bulldogs were the top breed, I think, last year. And so there's a lot more snubs out there. But, I think it's a lot of times it's equal parts the pet parents' sanity to the pet's safety. And so if your pet can fly in cabin and fit under, it's just better for everybody at that point. Now, you can't do that in most international locations. So you can do that domestic here in the United States, fly with your pet. Most international destinations are not going to allow a pet in cabin. So the only way you have is cargo at that point. Right. And so that's where we come in. We know the airlines, we know the safety of that. And the number one cause of injury in travel has nothing to do with the airline, has nothing to do with the country you're going to, has nothing to do with the handlers. It's 100% the pet parent, that they don't get their pets acclimated to the crate. And they stick them in a crate for the first time on the day they're flying, and the pet is scared of this crate, and they're traveling and they've never had that experience, and they stress themselves out. And so we walk pet parents through like a 3-week process of how to get your pets acclimated, so it is a calming environment for them. But that is the number one way pets are stressed, is actually the pet parent not getting them acclimated.
Well, I think also we talked about, in the last 15 years, the cargo spaces were, what did you call those?
Yeah, most aircrafts now are fully pressurized and temperature controlled. So there isn't a difference between upstairs where passengers are and downstairs where cargo is. And so it is the same temperature. Pilots have to know if there's live animals on board. And so on their manifest, they're told and so they monitor cargo temperatures during the flight. And so they know what's going on. They're alerted. They know exactly what is down in cargo to make sure that everything is safe.
I would love to be the individual as the pilot and said, you got a grizzly bear down there. A Kodiak grizzly bear, not a grizzly bear, a Kodiak grizzly bear. So
it's amazing what flies nowadays. Yeah.
That is crazy. I think I'm from the old school, and we noticed that, like you said, when the bags came off, they were cold, but that was, 30 years ago. And, we didn't understand that it's been pressurized. We just don't know. But
when you get your luggage now, it doesn't feel cold like it did 20, 30 years ago. You're like, wow, my bag is cold. My toiletries exploded. And that was all due to pressure. And nowadays, like that's not the case. And so
gotcha. I just wanted everybody to hear that, because we talked off, and I wanted everybody to understand that. Sounds like things are going good for your business, and looking forward to the future. We talk about professional and how you're doing. You sounds like you're doing great. What do you guys do to invest afterwards, like passive investing? Once you get a good company and build it up and get it going, a lot of people step into the passive part to get into retirement and stuff like that. What's your secrets in that?
Yeah. So for the last couple of years, we've been building. So I luckily have great business partners. We're a small team on ownership. And I said, I think in 2021, I said, guys, we're going to stop distributions for a couple of years, and we're investing. back end.
There you
We're
go.
going to build technology. We're going to build out our team, our processes, our structures, and we're reinvesting everything back in. And it's been a
Nice.
huge help. Quarter one of this year, we're up 72% over quarter one last year, and
Wow.
without increasing staff. And that was built on our technology, our efficiencies. And so for me, a lot of what we do in our company just comes out of just my personality, and I hate to not be efficient. The second my computer starts slowing down, it's time for a new one. Like I hate like waiting. And I just feel like at the end of the day, if I feel like I was productive, then, I can kind of end that day, close it down, go on with my life and feel like that was a good work day. And
Gotcha.
so like we heavily invested in technology and allowing our team to be highly efficient, allowing our customers to get information when they want it. People don't want to hear that you're only available from A to B. Like they want access online to be able, if it's midnight, my wife does most of her research between like 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. While all of us in the house are asleep. She's on her cell phone doing research, figuring things out on Amazon or whatever. And we saw a lot of our customers, and they didn't want to hear that our staff wasn't working, and so they couldn't get any information. So we built a whole online portal, all kind of educational things, videos to help them understand each stage, giving them the opportunity to work on their time for those things. And so we are now reaping that benefit. So this is
Nice.
our last year, kind of the end of last year was the first distribution I brought back into ownership. And now we're kind of, reaping the benefits of that. But now we're also looking to say, okay, how do we expand? How do we build out, other countries? How do we grow new locations, kind of new revenue verticals? And so for me, it's a balance. We have some owners that are ready to kind of, they are retired and they're not active in the company. But for me on my side, like I still feel like I have a good 20 years ahead of me. And so I don't want to go, start a new company or do what. I want to, see the 20 years ahead. We've seen huge growth in the 10 years or 11 years I've been on with this. And so I know there's a lot more to come.
Good. Awesome. That's great. As we're wrapping up, I'd like to, talk about what exciting plans you have. You kind of alluded to it, in the next 6 to 12 months, but what are you going to next? Like what is your next big thing? It's just basically expansion.
Yeah, I think ultimately pets are becoming even more part of our daily life. We use the expression, dogs used to be in the backyard, then they came to the living room, and then they came to the bedroom, and now they're in the bed for a lot of people. And, they're becoming much more part of our family. And so we used to hear when people relocate, I can't afford that, I'll just rehome. We don't hear that anymore. We hear, I'll have to figure out how to make it work.
Right.
And so for us, it's just trying to understand how do we continually work with airlines to make them better? What's our strategic, reach globally through partnerships, through expansion of our own? How do we keep customers in our company? And so when people do move to London and then they want to move back, how do they stay in the Starwood brand instead of go find another company somewhere else? And so, yeah, all of that is a part of the future for us and pushing technology even further. We have the ability coming up that we will be the first company ever to have full tracking of your pet in transit. And so you will be able to
Wow.
see everything. We will be able to monitor their temperature. We'll be able to monitor if there was any drops of the kennel. Our team will be able to monitor every pet worldwide through a label that will stick on top of every single crate. And so there's some great things that will allow us to make sure pets are even safer in transit. And so we're really excited to keep pushing forward on that.
Yeah, and where the pet's at? Is it in the airplane?
Yeah.
Is it in transport? And we talked about how you went going to where did you say, not Dubai, but Kandahar, where it was
Oh,
really
Doha.
hot.
Yeah.
Doha, where it's
Yeah.
really hot, and and you make sure it's temperature controlled. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Hey, one quick question before we take off. What is the biggest challenge you had to overcome in this? Because this sounds like, I think transferring to Kodiak would be a challenge,
Yeah.
but what's the
COVID, of
biggest one you had to
course.
overcome?
I think COVID,
COVID.
of course, was for everybody. We rely on commercial airlines, and commercial airliners park their airplanes.
Yeah.
And so for us, and sadly for a lot of companies in our industry, they went out of business because they didn't have cash coming in. We more than quadrupled our accounts receivables during COVID because pets weren't coming in, weren't leaving. And so we weren't getting money from customers to pay for their pet transport because they didn't know when their pet would be transported.
Right.
Qantas stopped flying into the United States. And so we had no flights to Australia. And so we had no way for pets to get there. And so you are handling more and more customers because some are signing on, but none are leaving. So your quantity of customers are going up, but you have no money coming in. And so that was one of the hardest times for us as a company, was being able to float the company and keep payroll going while trying to expand staff because our customer base was expanding,
Right.
but having no money coming in.
That is a tough one.
And then always understanding the constant changes of government rules. Governments are changing weekly, monthly. We try to stay on top of that and are at the meetings and the ones we can be at and know ahead of time on things. But that's always a stressful thing, is understanding what the new process will be.
Yeah, I could imagine, the country's been around for a long period of time. China's been around for a long period of time, but now they're going to change everything because of the tariffs. So I could see how that would be very difficult for you.
Yeah, we've already seen, pets coming in from China. Customs clearance rates have changed dramatically off of things. And so, it is, trying to absorb those things. Currency. We work with a lot of currencies, and the US dollar in the last couple of weeks hasn't been strong. And so, people who were with us for 9 months in planning, and then, what we quoted 9 months ago, and now what the cost is, that eats into gross profits at that point. So, a lot of complications on that. Geopolitical stuff always kind of comes in. But at the end of the day, it's how we get pets to their next destination safely and reunite the families. And so that's what our passion is.
Well, it sounds like you're doing a great job. You're number one in your spot, and you're 74% from last year, up 74%. That is crazy. I have interviewed a lot of people, and nobody came up with that number. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, before we take off, we're wrapping up the interview. I just want to give you the opportunity to know if anybody wants to contact you about, pet transport, how would they get in touch with you, or what would they do?
Yeah, so our website's the best way, because it allows us to get all the information we need. We need a lot of information before we can give a quote. And so we need more than just destination. And so pet size, all kind of stuff. So we always tell people, go to our website, starwoodpet.com. And then from there, you can do our quote request. It takes maybe 3 minutes. It's not long, but it'll allow our system to find the best airline, everything. And then usually within 24 hours, one of our team members is going to be on the phone with you and going to be talking you through the whole process. And so the best way to start that is definitely online.
Cool. Beautiful. All right. Hey, listen, thanks a lot. I really do appreciate it. Thanks for all your insight. And I don't know how a crazy cool kind of industry that you're in, transporting Kodiak. I didn't know transporting Kodiak was possible, to be completely honest with you. I thought if you were going to do a movie shot, you'd have to go to the country that has that and have the bear there. But bears aren't natural to Africa, correct? Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Hey, listen, thanks a lot. And we'll say goodbye to everybody and appreciate your time. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.